is both revealing and despicable. You can clearly see their disdain for the constituent community, for the black clergy who have stood with MRT, and mostly for MRT, daring to exercise his constitutional right to even go to trial to defend himself. The feds demanding a 6-year sentence in this case is their way of punishing an uppity Negro who dared to fight back. Let's hope that the judge in this case sees through this racist masquerade and delivers a sentence of time commensurate with the crime, even as MRT appeals this verdict. There are no good times to be black in America, and sometimes are worse than others. For KBLA Talk 1580, I'm Tavis Smiley. We welcome your comments.
Memories on corners with the foes and the moles. Walk to the store for the roll, talking straight forward, y'all. Got Uncle Jack smoking, some put blow up their nose. The coke with their lows, the wind is cold and it blows. In they socks and they stoves, holding they rolls. Corners leave souls open and closed, hoping for more, with nowhere to go. Rolling in droves, they shoot the wrong way, cause they ain't knowing they goes. The street ain't safe cause they ain't knowing the code. By the foes, I was told either focus or fold. Got cousins with clothes, hope they open some doors, so we can got clothes and rolling the road. Now I roll in the O's with windows that don't roll. Down the roads with cars get broken and stole. These are the stories told by Stony and Cottage Grove. The world is cold, the block is hot in the stove. On the corner, I wish I could give this feeling. I wish I could give this feeling. On the corner, vibing, killing, dying. That's the nigga that we know. We underrated, we educated. The corner was our time when time stood still and gators and snakeskins and yellow and pink and all the blue profiles glorifying them. Street lights and deep nights, cats trying to eat right. Riding those seat bikes with work to feed nights. So they icky sweet nights, they head in their feet right. Desire to street life, cars and weed sights. It's hard to breathe nights, days are thief like. The beast roam the streets, the police is weak like. Game at its peak, we speak and believe hype. Bang in the street, tax got rapper deep right. It's steep life, coming up with the sheep life. Rappers and hoopers, we strive to be like. G's with free stripes, C's that need life. C's and weed tight, needs and bees right. The corner,
KBLA is Talk 1580. You can just like fall back and let the flow go all day. We're celebrating hip hop's birthday. Joining me here in the studio, he was born in El Paso, Texas, but he grew up in Watts in East Los Angeles, where his family dealt with poverty and discrimination. He was a gang member and drug user by the age of 12, and by the time he turned 18, he had lost at least 25 of his friends to gang violence, drug overdoses, shootings, suicide. He's got 2 autobiographical books about his experiences. Recalls You Back, and Odyssey Through Love, Addiction, Revolution, and Healing, which came out in 2012 and won the National Book Critics Circle Award for autobiography, and Always Running, La Vida Loca, Gang Days in L.A. He's a journalist, a critic, an activist, and founder of Tia Chucha Press, which publishes emerging socially conscious artists. He's also a former gubernatorial candidate. Luis Rodriguez, good morning.
Well, thank you so much. It's always great to be here.
Yeah, we were talking off the air, and I was kind of thinking, you know, I mostly know you as poet, because I come from poet people, and, you know, poets are special people. Poets are different. And I was thinking about the parallels or the kind of lineage, I guess, between rap, hip-hop, and poetry.
Absolutely.
How do you see that?
Well, it's absolutely connection. You know, the whole idea of rap to me was always giving messages with beats. But the messages was always important. I mean, it's not just talking, it's you're in the rhythm. And the rhythm is how the message gets laid out, right? And poetry does that too. People say it's meter. I think with free verse, it's really the natural voice and your own rhythm of your voice. And that's what I think poetry does. It is music without music. It is words with a rhythm. So I think rap and poetry definitely come together. You know, a lot of you just would listen to Common. A lot of great rappers are great poets. And then I came out of the poetry slam movement, which, as you know, was very much connected to what was happening in hip hop. Also turned into a poetry thing, where now slamming was the way to go. Performance, body, voice, the words, everything was coming together on stage.
Right, and some people do trace hip hop to the Watts Prophets, the Last Poets, Gil Scott-Heron.
Absolutely.
How do you see a lineage there?
Yeah, I absolutely do, because you know I grew up during when all of them were there, and I had Last Poets albums, and I had Gil Scott-Heron all the time. You know, my God, Winter in America is still one of my favorite albums ever, and I grew up in that, what you know you call the urban, whatever the urban environment is. That was my environment. You know, people think that because of your Chicano, you're about all of the Mexican music, which I love. I love rancheras, I love boleros, I love all the stuff. But I grew up urban. I grew up in the U.S. urban world. That's why hip hop was important to me. You know, I went to the Bronx in 1981 when hip hop was exploding. I was there.
Wow.
I saw it. I witnessed it. I was there. I was hanging with everybody. I got to meet a lot of people. One time I did a talk in Chicago with Kool Herc, and it was me and him and 1,000 young people at the Teamsters Union Hall right there in Chicago in the 90s. And he's my age. So we were just talking about how similar things were. I'm from, you know, South Central, East LA, and he's over in the Bronx, and we're talking about the same worlds that we were in. Only hip hop took a certain shape of that world, which became phenomenally global, and then we had another shape here in LA.
You and Kool Herc on a panel. That's wild.
Yeah, and it was really great talking with him. I learned a lot. Yeah, he was talking about that hip hop was always black and brown. And, you know, because they forget the Puerto Ricans were right at the heart of it. It was black West Indies, what they used to call the West Indies, you know, Jamaican, and then African American, of course, blacks from here, and then Puerto Ricans. They were the ones that created hip hop. And
now that's become controversial because, you know, people want to take all the credit. And, you know, we were talking about that earlier because of the MAGA, you know, black folks. But also I think that there's a legitimacy to that because in some ways it feels like the origins of hip-hop are being erased.
I think you're right, and they're forgetting that it was always about the conditions. You know, the conditions that were in the Bronx in 81 it's changed somewhat. It was really bad shape. You know, I mean, it's bad as you can find it. There really was, you know, buildings completely demolished and people, vacant lots, and people walking around some dire situations. But out of that world came music, it came poetry, it came rap. Out of that world, when the people were fighting, they stopped fighting to do culture. And to me, that's what's telling that people forget the origins of it. That culture was going to be the revolution, not just killing each other, not just all the drugs, was going on. Same thing happened to Watts after the Watts uprising in 65, and even in the 92 uprising, music and art and poetry popped out again. So I think that's part of the story. The slam poetry movement in Chicago was out of that, deindustrialization. All the steel mills were gone. The stockyards were gone. People, black and brown people, were left hanging because they were the ones barely getting those jobs. And out of there, a slam poetry movement pops up. So I think culture is the resistance.
Yeah. And when you were in the Bronx in the early 80s and you started to experience hip-hop, how did you experience it? Do you remember what stuck with you, what, you know, was most striking?
Well, it was alive. I don't know how else to say it. People, you know, I'm coming from LA where there was a lot of battles, a lot of fights, street battles, gangs. Over there, it was people were alive, people were talking, people were interacting, people were moving. Hip-hop was a unifying force. And I think that's what was powerful about it, because it was whatever divisions people had, and again, black and brown divided among themselves, that all died. They were all together. the writing on the walls was amazing. It was something phenomenal, as you know. The breakdancing, which was related to it, and then of course the MCing, and then the rapping. All of that was happening at once, and there were intersections between them. I think the industry, like the music industry, came in and took part of it, what they call rap, and tried to pull it out. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And they tried to exploit some of the other stuff. But when I was there, it was all unified. It was all together. And it was definitely black and brown. I was staying with the Puerto Rican communities. They had big, huge housing projects. You know how New York City is huge. And they had a whole big Puerto Rican complex. Hip-hop everywhere. The walls, everything, the music, dancing, people break dancing all on every corner. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It was alive. And that's what I felt was the beauty of it.
And speaking of on the walls, your poetry is on the walls in Watts now.
Yeah. So, you know, people remember that I lived in Watts as a child from 2 to 8 years old. I went to school there, and then I came back in my 20s. And I always consider Watts one of my primary communities. I've been all over LA, as you know. But Watts has always been very special. So they did a beautiful mural at the old train station, huge. And one section commemorates the Brown Berets, the La Causa, the Chicano movement, but they have words in my poem, Watts Bleeds. Part of it, the words pop up in there. And last May, I think it was in May, or forget, maybe in March, we had a big celebration there. Speakers and music and Aztec dancers, and there was comedians, and there was some great poetry. It was a wonderful event.
Talking with Luis Rodriguez, when we come forward, maybe I can get you to share that poem or some other poetry with us. Yeah, that's something to look forward to on this beautiful Friday on KBLA Talk 1580.
A safe place to go loud. A great place for progressive politics. KBLA Talk 1580.
Hey LA, are you feeling the heat? LADWP has rebates up to $225 on new air conditioners to help you beat the heat and save money. Plus, you can sign up for level pay to get predictable monthly bills for easy budgeting. Stay cool. Visit ladwp.com/cool-LA. That's ladwp.com/cool-LA.
Spilled your drink? Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up spills quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less than the leading ordinary brand. So you can get back to your night. Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
The California Crusader newspaper would like to thank all of our subscribers for their support throughout the years, proudly serving the South Los Angeles and South Bay areas for more than 40 years. The California Crusader is a multicultural, black-owned, adjudicated newspaper that focuses on providing newsworthy information to the people in our community. We're constantly looking for ways to assist businesses in our community to connect with our subscribers. We provide low-cost, effective ways to promote your business with our reasonable and affordable advertising rates. You can participate by suggesting, sharing, and submitting your stories on the California Crusader newspaper Community Share Facebook group page, or visit our website at cal-cruise-news.com. That's calcruisenews.com. Then click on the Submit Now button located on the top right corner of the homepage, or text CCN to 42828. Again, text CCN to 42828. The California Crusader newspaper, working together to build a better community for our future. Subscribe today.
Hey, you. Yeah, you. This is your dentist. Do me a favor and feel the front of your teeth. How grimy are they? Ugh. It's time for a Crest Pro Health reality checkup. That grime is the buildup of plaque bacteria that can cause cavities in just months. You need to switch to Crest Pro Health. While most toothpaste stop working in minutes, Crest Pro Health's antibacterial fluoride protects for up to 12 hours to stop cavities before they start. So pick some up on the way home. Smile. Crest has you covered.
Thanks for waking up with Dominique DePrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
You got what it takes? Cause I'm Curtis Blow, and I want you to know that these are the breaks. Brakes on the bus, brakes on the car, brakes to make you a superstar, brakes to win and brakes to lose. Need me a break, rock your shoes, and these are the breaks. Break it up, break it up, break it up.
KBLA Talk 1580, taking you back. Of course, we were also talking me and POTUS about the West Coast. The West Coast has its own vibe, its own energy, its own contributions creatively, and you're part of that, being from Watts, and like you said, you got a bunch of communities, East LA, now the Valley, where Tia Chucha is located.
So, one of the things, too, is what's black and brown is the lowrider culture. We talked about this. And it also got very big with West Coast hip-hop. And people didn't know in the other parts of the world that it actually had Chicano roots. And I have spoken on this because they don't know when they see the videos and, and Dre and Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg, and they got the cars. They don't know the Chicano connections to that. But when I talk to them, they're like, really? They didn't even know. I said, well, over here, it's still black and brown. It's just taking a certain shape.
Yeah, I mean, I know that from the Bay because you always had the lowrider car clubs were always black and brown.
Yeah.
And it was. I mean, I shouldn't say was because I think it's still like that in the Bay. Yeah.
It's still very big, very huge. Yeah. So people need to know that when it comes to what's called urban culture, I think maybe not in every city, but at least the bigger cities, it was always black and brown. And sometimes people forget that, or they're always telling me Mexicans or Puerto Ricans were imitating blacks. I go, well, no, not really. They were part of it. I get it, because black people. That's the heart of it.
I mean, since you're going there, there's some Latino. I don't know if I want to call them Chicano because I don't think they have the consciousness to really be categorized as Chicano. Who here in LA now who are starting a beef by saying, Latinos started hip hop, African Americans, were imitating us, and now they try, and so I mean, I think regardless whether you're Puerto Rican, what you call West Indian, Chicano. The root is Africa. So if we go there, to the call and response and the syncopation, the root is Africa.
Yeah, and even Mexicans have African roots, and they don't want to recognize it. They don't want to go there. Puerto Ricans definitely do, and they do go there. They're very proud.
Some of them, Some of them.
Yeah, but I think the divisions are really weird and strange, and anybody says that they started hip-hop or anything, black people is the heart of urban culture. That's what we know, and I accept that because that's what brought me. When I came into Watts and East LA, we were listening to all the black music. We weren't into the Beach Boys. We weren't into the Beatles. We were into the urban culture. And the other thing is that a lot of the black bands couldn't play in Hollywood. They were only white bands. They were playing the Chicano clubs in East LA, the huge clubs, the Armani Legion. So that's how we got into that whole rhythm and blues mixed in. And soon Chicano bands were doing that. They were creating their own version of the same kind of music.
So, I mean, what we're talking about, 60s? 1960s?
50s and 60s.
Yeah.
Yeah, where they couldn't play in the white clubs, but they played all over East LA. And
so some of the Motown, the doo-wop.
All of them. And then the East LA people were eating it up. They were all totally into it. So people don't talk about the interactions. I know, for example, I don't want to say who started anything. I think you're right. It's that interactions are big. And lowriding is a huge thing, and I know that the first lowriders probably more likely, and I know people study this, were Chicanos, but because we're so connected with black people, it's gonna move quickly. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, and it's all very rich culture.
Absolutely.
So you said you might read.
I like to read Watts Bleeds because it's a poem that I wrote about after the uprising. And it's a poem connecting to my own living there, and also because Watts was always, to me, I grew up there, it was black and brown too, and that was always my connection to the black culture right away. I was a kid from Mexico who the teachers treated us badly. I got slapped when I was 6 years old for speaking Spanish.
What?
Right in front of the class.
Wow, that's crazy.
These were the white teachers because there wasn't really, the teachers were all white, the principal was white, but all the kids were black and brown.
And they were allowed to hit you back then.
Yeah, they could hit you. They had corporal punishment all the time.
Wow.
And so you couldn't speak Spanish, and they didn't teach us English very well. But I think this is where language comes in, how poetry and even slam and even rap, people weren't given the skills in school, but they had skills inside of them. It's in their bones, the rhythm, the language, the words, the messages. And this is how they created a whole new way of expression. So I'm going to read you this poem, Watts Bleeds. And it goes like this. And just so you know, I also went back to Watts in my 20s. My oldest kids were born there, Ramiro and Andrea, who are now 48 and 46.
Wow.
Yeah. So, yeah. Watts Bleeds, leaving stained reminders on dusty sidewalks. Here where I strut alone as glass lays broken by my feet and a blanket of darkness is slung across the wood shacks of Nuestra Colonia. Watts bleeds dripping from carcasses of dreams with despair's old people sitting on torn patio sofas with empty eyes and children running down alleys with big sticks. Watts bleeds on vacant lots and burned out buildings, temples desolated by a people's rage, where fear is a deep river, where hate is an overgrown weed. Watts bleeds even as we laugh, recall good times, drink and welcome daylight through the broken windshield of an old Impala. Here is Watts of my youth, where teachers threw me from classroom to classroom, not knowing where I could fit in, where I learned to fight or run, where I zigzagged down alleys, jumped over fences, and raced by graffiti on crumbling factory walls, where we played between the boxcars, bleeding from the broken limbs and torn flesh, and where years later we shot up heroin in the playground of our childhood. Watts bleeds as the shadow of the damned engulfs all the chinga of our lives. In the warmth of a summer night, gunshots echoed their deadly song to the silence of fear, prelude to a heartbeat. Watts bleeds as I bled, getting laid off from work, standing by my baby's crib, touching his soft cheek and fingering his small hand as dreams shatter again, dreams of fathers for little men. Watts bleeds and the city hemorrhages, unable to stop the flow from the swollen and festering sore. Oh, bloom, you trampled flower, come alive as once you tried to do from the ashes. Watts, bleeding and angry, you will be free.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. And we talked about your poem Now on the Walls of the Train Station there in Watts.
Yeah.
Poetic Justice. You're doing a tour of Watts?
Well, I have some friends coming in today, so we're going to take them around Watts and show them around. You know, I do this regularly. Watts and East LA, when people want to know what the barrio ghetto is, I take them through them, because I lived in all these neighborhoods. They're neighborhoods that I grew up in. I just take them through them, and they're amazed sometimes. They didn't realize, even people who lived in LA, these people happen to be from out of town, but even if they lived in LA, they don't always know about what Watts or even East LA or South LA is really about.
Wow, and this weekend is the anniversary of the Watts Uprising, the Watts Rebellion.
Yeah, so this is very important to remember. You know, I was 11 years old when it happened, and we just moved out from there. Again, I was there till about 8. We had moved out already, but I knew those streets, and I knew 103rd Street. I knew when it was burning. I really felt the impact of it. Not only because of my neighborhood where I was at. People didn't realize that the Mexican community was cordoned off. It was mostly on the other side of Centro, because the police didn't want them to get involved. But of the 34 people killed, 3 or 4 were Mexicans trying to break through. They don't always tell you that. And then they went to Southgate, which is the white working class community. There was a big GM plant there. And they told them to arm themselves. So they were there with guns.
Wow.
Don't let these black people come and get you, that kind of thing. The police were playing a big role in what was going on, and they were trying to isolate just the black people. Of course, they killed off as many as they could. But I knew all the other ins and outs of it. It was how they used race to divide all of us, the black and brown, but also from even the white working class that happened to be there.
Wow, and this is from your own recollection of being there, living there at that time, right?
Yeah, when I was living there, it was black and brown then. I had a great time. People didn't treat me bad at all. We always had great relationships with everybody. And it wasn't like years later people said, well, black and brown don't get along and all this kind of stuff. At the time, we were all neighbors. We all grew up together, you know what I'm saying. I didn't have any issue with my community.
Yeah. Well, we're talking with poet, activist, and the founder of Tia Chucha Press and Centro Cultural, the Cultural Center. Luis Rodriguez is my guest, and you're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DePrimo when we come forward.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. In Illinois, an African-American Chicago man who recently had a 1996 murder conviction overturned by a Cook County judge after serving 27 years in prison is a free man. Lewis Robinson's lawyers for the Exoneration Project had submitted court records showing former CPD detective Ronaldo Guevara pressured the witness in the case to lie and blame Robinson for the murder, which led to his conviction. Robinson is the 42nd Guevara conviction to be overturned. We're now learning that the number of suicides in the United States is at an all-time high. According to a new report from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, roughly 49,000 Americans committed suicide in 2022. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com. At Blindster, we offer over 50 different custom window treatments, including faux wood blinds and shutters, all at prices less than retail. Plus, we'll send you free samples before you buy. Don't hire an expensive pro. Do it yourself and save big at Blindster.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
A special weekend coming up for former Lakers star Pau Gasol. Gasol will be inducted into the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame on Saturday in Springfield, Massachusetts. Gasol plays 7 of his 18 NBA seasons with the Lakers. The 6-time All-Star helped the Lakers win 2 NBA championships. Joining Gasol in the Hall of Fame class of 2023 is Dwayne Wade, Tony Parker, Dirk Nowitzki, and San Antonio Spurs coach Greg Popovich. The Lakers will play the Denver Nuggets on the opening night of the NBA regular season. Opening night for the NBA is October 24th. The ACC is having second thoughts about adding Cal and Stanford. The revenue potential of both schools and travel distance are major factors in the discussions. Cal and Stanford will need a new conference in 2024 with the Pac-12 disintegrating. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio that's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
The possibility of lung cancer can be pretty scary, especially if you're one of approximately 8 million current or former smokers at high risk. That's why SavedByTheScan.org wants you to know that now there's a breakthrough low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early, and it only takes 60 seconds. You stop smoking. Now start screening. For an easy quiz to see if you're eligible, visit SavedByTheScan.org. It could save your life. SavedByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you and the African American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Are you interested in catching up on all the latest entertainment news, trending topics, and exciting interviews? I got you. Tune in to The Rob Report with Robin Ayers, Monday through Friday, 6 to 7 p.m. I'm your host, Robin Ayers. Join me every weekday with some of the best entertainment contributors in the business as we break down what's going on, who's got next, and what not to miss. Only on The Rob Report with Robin Ayers.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
MC Light for AARP. Hip-hop, the cultural phenomenon that took New York by storm in 1973, is celebrating 50 years of rocking mics and crowds. Whether you're a ride-or-die hip-hop head or simply curious about its origins, check out the latest issue of AARP, the magazine. It celebrates this incredible milestone with a featured story brimming with fun hip-hop facts and history. Head over to aarp.org/Black Community to learn more.
Community is more than where you live. It's the people in it who go above and beyond to help it thrive. During the 50th anniversary of hip-hop and the 75th anniversary of Black radio, AARP recognizes the members, volunteers, people, and partners giving back to our communities. We believe when our efforts drive change for the greater good, we all thrive together. To learn more about how AARP supports efforts to keep our communities thriving, visit aarp.org/Black Community.
We're not for everybody, but we're for everybody. You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
My lyrics say give them hell, my fears saying I need a break. The foot I put on next saying keep the pace. Smile say I'm good, but stomach say I ain't eating days. Mom saying dream bigger, son, you need a lake. Pop saying save your penny, son, you need a place. My friends saying keep the pimpin' blood, you need a race. My fam starting this tradition now we're being safe. My ex picking now to tell me how she want a space. She be stressed if I ain't text her every couple days. She ain't special, ain't no pressure when you run the game. Another extra in my section when I'm up at Dre's. Talk to me nicely, walk through is pricey. Till my mom's in the hills and Lil run them icy. Jesus' hand on the wheel, it feels like the vice grip. If I ain't give you the chills, I feel there's alright this, My brother wears heart on his sleeve. His only motivation now is loving his seed. We a cause of graduation, manifesting our dreams. If I write the homie lock, we should have played in the league. Man, it's hard being the woke. The only one scoring get ball to me when I'm open. They guarded me and I'm stroking from hard and deep in the ocean. The dream take that's hot arteries and devotion. For the guy, yo, count up my bad days, count back my past ways. And sometimes my pride just won't leave me alone. Cause home don't even feel like how we used to feel, dog. Real father time just won't leave me alone. Shorty got your seed now, daddy put the streets down. But meanwhile, my side chicks won't leave me alone. Someone keep it real with me, follow up and build. Yeah, still down the vibe, won't leave me alone.
KBLA, happy birthday, Miles. Hip Hop's birthday is Miles Lowe's birthday. If you want to check out the music, he's got three things out, something else coming out in September.
Wow.
Yeah, and the legacy goes on.
Yes, well, I don't know if I want to just say it's talent. Young people have it in their bones to do art, to do poetry. You know, they might need to get some skills along the way, but it's natural. And this is why in the hip-hop, birth of hip-hop, in a place where there was no real schooling, no real people figured out, just go to language. Just make language work and say and be music, you know. It happens everywhere where people get oppressed. You know?
Yeah, the power of the word. Yeah. Man, you said a lot. Thank you for sharing that poem with us. And let's talk about you talk about young people have it in them, and one of the things I know that you do that you have in common with my father, the late Mary Baraka, aka Leroy Jones, you guys use art to heal, and you use art to make change.
Yeah, I learned that from your dad in many ways because one of the first books I ever picked up, you know, I was homeless for 3 years as a kid. I was on heroin. I was in the street. I was in pretty bad shape. But I used to go to the Centro Public Library as my refuge. I read tons of books. And at one point, they brought out all these black books. And your dad, Leroy Jones at the time, was one of them. I just started eating up all these books. I didn't know. I learned so much. And then, of course, James Baldwin and Malcolm X's autobiography. And later on, there was Stuart Jackson and Aldous Cleaver. I was reading all these books. And so your dad's work as Leroy Jones at the time was instrumental to my own growth and my own development. You know, I remember Donnell Lee. He had this book. I hope I say it right. It's got Scream, Don't Cry, or something like that. That was a revolutionary book for me. So in many ways, resistance and revolution comes from tapping into something inside of you, your own and what's innate, but also speaks to the world. And that's what I think I learned, even in that period where I was lost. Because soon after 18, 19. I'm finished. I'm finished with the crazy life. I'm going to be a revolutionary. That was my choice. But a lot of it was those books that I read. Yeah.
And that's, in your book, Vida Loca, of course, became, a movie, became legendary. But you continue to draw on your roots, your own roots, your ancestral roots, and the art to help young people get it together.
I think young people don't have enough mentors and guides. Where are the elders for them? Many of them, the elders became the old hypes or the old gangsters. You know what I'm saying? That's not good eldership. So I always tell people they're figuring it out themselves, but they really do need good guidance. But what happened with a lot of us oldsters, we just became detached. We weren't connected with them. And many of them just figured things out on their own. But I do think we need to get back to having proper relations between elders and young people, the way it should be, out of respect. Not just old people telling young people what to do, but seeing the beauty in them, seeing the gifts they bring to the world.
Mutual respect.
Mutual respect, yeah, and helping them bring that out. That's what we do at Tia Chucha's. We have all these young people. Me and my wife turned everything over to these young people 2 or 3 years ago, and they're taking care of business. They're running everything.
Love that.
I love those people. They're so good. These young people, they're so great, knowledgeable, aware, and they're so revolutionary-minded. And me and her, and she helped mentor a lot of them over 20 years. But now it's in their hands. That's the beauty of it.
Today is also the anniversary of Ezell Ford, who was murdered by LAPD. And this was part of your formative journey, too. You a bunch of your friends, actually.
I lost 4 friends, all of them unarmed, killed by police, 3 by sheriff's deputies, because sheriff's deputies was over in my neighborhood, and then 1 by the San Gabriel Police Department. And I will tell you one thing really quickly. The guy that got killed by the San Gabriel police officer in 1977 was kidnapped and murdered in this officer's house. Kidnapped his 18-year-old kid, who I happen to know, and took him to his house, tortured him, and murdered him. The cop. They eventually, his name was Billy Joe Belcovine, that was the cop. My friend's name was David Dominguez. They eventually got him convicted, this cop. The first police officer in the state of California, if not at least one of the first, to be convicted as an active police officer. He got a life sentence. We thought it was justice. For once, they finally got somebody. Because my other friends, those cops never were taken to trial. They weren't even dismissed. They finally got somebody. But 13 years later, then Governor Pete Wilson exonerates him.
Wow.
Helps him get a parole, gets a date out. And the guy ends up living full life with police pension. And so he murdered my friend. And we realized that the injustice was never done. His mother, my friend's mother, is still around. She sued, and she was denied. They denied her suit. The justice was never done. So I wrote a script about this with a couple other guys that know the story, and I wrote the whole script. I don't know if we're going to make it. We're going to try to make it to a movie. We'll see. I just want that story to be told. I don't want 18-year-old David Dominguez to be forgotten, because it's one of those stories that gets forgotten. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And it is our forge, never should be forgotten. Anybody who's been through this stuff, those voices and those names have to be remembered.
Say his name, David Dominguez.
David Dominguez.
Say his name, Ezell Ford.
Yeah.
You're listening to, Luis Rodriguez is here with me. I'm Dominique DePrima, and you're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DePrima when we come forward.
You're listening to K-Trip, where we play all the best classic water-wasting hits like Sprinklers in the Rain and Leaky Faucets. They're tunes from another time because now that we face a hotter, drier future, every drop counts. Despite an extremely wet winter, keep using less water, fixing leaks, and reusing indoor water for your garden. Visit SaveOurWater.com for more ways to conserve. Up next, brushing your teeth with the water on.
K-Trip. For all of us, this generation and the next, there is simply no place in our lives for litter. And yet, it's everywhere we look. And unfortunately, it does belong to all of us. So, let's come together and create a litter-free, clean California, once and for all. Remember to properly dispose of your trash and recycling. Secure truckloads with tarps to keep debris from flying out. Clean out your car when you're at a gas station. Take pride in your community by organizing a cleanup event or join a cleanup event near you. Zero litter is the goal. Join us at cleanca.com. That's cleanca.com. Let's do it together. Brought to you by Caltrans. cleanca.com.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where everybody is somebody and nobody is a stranger. You belong here.
Community organizer, poet, and former gubernatorial candidate Luis Rodriguez. You know, Cornel West is running for president, and I wonder, you know.
Cornel West is such an important person in our world. I don't know how far that campaign's going to go. I'm still a Green Party person, and so the Green Party has endorsed him, and you know, I think that's great just to have his voice. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, and we were talking off the mic that you still got 125,000 votes, even though you had almost no money when you ran for governor.
I went up and down the state on my own. We raised money a little bit here and there, no corporate money, and it's really a shame that it's a big business running for office.
Yeah.
It's a shame.
Well, I voted for you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Let's go to Abid calling us from LA. Hi, Abid.
Greetings, Sister Dominique and Brother Rodriguez. I'm learning so much and enjoying the show immensely. Thank you again, Dominique. I just called because I wanted to know, in explaining the relationship between what we call Chicanos, Hispanics today. I remember them as Chicanos when I was growing up as a teenager. And I just wanted to know what is the difference? What's the difference? Because a lot of what we call Hispanics today are just a different vibe than the Chicanos I grew up with, playing in Centinela Park and jamming with blacks and Chicanos and playing djembes and so forth. And it was just family. We didn't see any difference. And today it's a little different. And I want to know, is there a difference between Chicanos and whatever their name today or you guys are named today? What's the difference? What is a Chicano?
Well, I'll have to say that I'm still Chicano, and I still carry that. It's a name that we gave ourselves. That actually comes from Mexicano, which comes from the Mexicas, which is the so-called Aztecs. So it has indigenous roots. In other words, when you say Chicano, you're talking indigenous. You're going back to the roots. Yeah, we have mixtures with everything else, like all of us, and I don't deny Spanish. I don't deny African. It's all part of who I am. But really, majority of what I am is indigenous, and so it's just honoring that and respecting that. I think Hispanics was a made-up term that came out of the 70s, and it's not really a word that I use. I think all it does is isolate your Spanish side, which is, for a lot of people, is the conquerors, the conquest. I'm not against Spanish people particularly. I'm against, with that history, they destroyed beautiful cultures in the Americas. And so you gotta. I don't want to recognize myself as Hispanic because I don't want to just bring that up. Yes, I speak Spanish and I speak English, which are colonial languages, but I've also learned some Nahuatl. I've learned some.
Nahuatl is an indigenous language.
Yeah. So to me, it's important to remember the roots. I think because of the world we're in, black and brown, we can kind of stratify all this world. We can speak in all these things. I can speak English, Spanish, I can do, but I always remember my indigenous, and I don't want to forget. That's my community. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you, my brother.
Yeah,
Thank you for the clarification.
Thanks.
Yeah, and you brought up, what some folks in Mexico call, el tercer raíz, the third root, and this idea that there is, African blood there. But I think one thing that's really discussed is what you just said about it, the indigenous roots, because most people, when they think Mexican or Chicano or Salvadoreño or whatever, they think Latino or Hispanic.
So it's European.
And yet we put indigenous people or First Nations people in a completely different category, as if they have nothing to do with so-called Latino people.
Yeah, and I think that's where things get erroneous. We try to combine everybody, homogenize people. But there's white Latinos, which is fine. They're from Spain, they're from Europe, whatever it might be. I have no issue with it. They could be Mexican white. I have no issue with that. But I think the issue is that we're de-Indianizing or de-Africanizing ourselves constantly by saying Latino, Hispanic, because those have those names come from Europe. So I always think, let's just be real to who we are. We're much more complex as people, African Americans, everybody, we are. But we still know our root. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And Africa, as you're pointing out, is really the root almost of everything, including what happened in Mexico, because of the slave trade, but also just Africa is the root of all humanity.
Right.
And we can go all the way down. I mean, Africa is the motherland for everybody, to be honest. At a certain point, you can say that.
Well, when you talk about indigenous, I mean, when I look at this idea of white supremacy as a philosophy that is oppressing people worldwide, I think what you're talking about indigenousness within Chicano, Latino communities is an example of that, because I've heard, when you get to the shadeism, I hear Latino people or whatever calling other Latino people indio, as if it was an insult, like you're Indian, like you're dark-skinned, or you're indigenous. It's like the whole city council situation where they're like, laughing at the Oaxacans because they're indígenas, they're indigenous. So it's a form of white supremacy playing out, right, in your community.
Within, Central Americans and Mexicans, there's this anti-indigenous. Indio is an insult. And you go to Central America, which you can see the Indígena and everybody, you can see how indigenous they are, Mayans and everything. If you call them an Indian, even today, some places, they're insulted. But I've been to Mayan communities in Guatemala, but also the Pipil people in El Salvador who couldn't speak out. They were massacred in 1932, 30,000 of them. They hide themselves. I did a ceremony in Izalco in El Salvador, and I was in tears because these people were using the Nahuatl language, which is their language too. They have a version of it, and doing ceremony. They couldn't do that for generations. Now they're doing it again. You know what I'm saying? And it was moving to see this because in El Salvador and Guatemala, Honduras, being Indio, and like a good parts of Mexico is an insult, and people don't want to speak that way. That's a shame that we hate ourselves that way.
I mean, that was that way for a time, way back with African. You call somebody, you look like an African, like that was an insult. And I'm glad that we're, there are these movements, Chicano movements, Pan-Africanism or, Afrocentricity that has allowed us to change our consciousness, at least big portions of our communities, to change our consciousness, embrace indigenous roots, embrace African roots.
Especially now when, like you say, white supremacy is out there. It's open. We always knew it was there, but now everybody that's claiming to be white supremacists, they're speaking out. Now we can spot them a mile away. They're out there, and they're actually trying to take power. They're not just playing.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, they actually tried to stage a coup in the name of the 45th president. Talking with Luis J. Rodriguez, and you're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
The station you turn to when you had it up to here with cultural incompetence. KBLA Talk 1580.
Gotta stay fresh, ma. Don't shop with a rec bar.
Have you visited us online for the grand opening of KBLA.store? For the best in new merch, gift ideas, books, media, and more, log on to KBLA.store. Be sure to check out our KBLA team favorites at KBLA.store today. That's KBLA.store for all the official merch on your favorite talk radio station. KBLA Talk 1580. On a Mission Youth Travel presents the 2023 Morehouse Homecoming HBCU College Tour, October 25th through October 29th in Atlanta, Georgia. Open to high school students grades 9 through 12. For more, 323-298-4779. Students will tour Morehouse College, Spelman College, Clark Atlanta University, Alabama State, and Tuskegee University. Email info@onamissionyouthtravel.com. Again, info@onamissionyouthtravel.com. The HBCU tour price includes all meals, transportation, round-trip airfare with one checked bag, hotel accommodations, all museums, college tours, and admission to the Morehouse versus Kentucky State University homecoming football game. Spaces are filling up quickly, so call today to sign up. 323-298-4779. Again, 323-298-4779.
At Sherman, we heard you shouldn't talk about going to the bathroom in public, so we decided to sing about it. Roll charming, ultra strong when you dropping the beat. It cleans way less effort on your seat. Roll it, drop it, roll it, drop it. Charmin flows extra strong from the road. Your butt hella clean while you're sitting on the bowl. Yeah, that's all you need for that bathroom view. Get you in and out without nothing to prove.
Charmin Ultra Strong cleans better so you can use less. Enjoy the go with Charmin.
If this were a Reese's TV ad, you'd be staring at a Reese's peanut butter cup. And sure, my voice is peanut buttery smooth, but still, you need to see the peanut butter cups, right? No? I can really just say Reese's and you'll go get some? Okay. Reese's. 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 Really working, actually. Reese's. Reese's. I'm on to something. Reese's. Reese's. Reese's.
The conversation continues right now with Dominique DePrima on First Things First.
And it's a Friday, a beautiful Friday, and I'm honored to have Luis J. Rodriguez here in studio. If you're in the Valley, check out Tia Chucha. You can also find them online, TiaChucha.org.
And everybody's welcome. It's a beautiful cultural space, a bookstore. The only bookstore for 500,000 people.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And you are going to bless us with another poem?
Yeah, and this is also related to the Watts Rebellion. 5 years later, I got involved in the East LA riots, so-called East LA riots. It was actually the largest protest against the Vietnam War in a community of color ever at the time. And that became a peaceful 30,000 people, very peaceful, and the police attacked it, the sheriff's deputies, and they attacked it, and it became, pretty sure within a week, it was a riot. You know how that goes. 3 people were killed. And what happened is I showed up as just a gangster, but I became a revolutionary out of that. They arrested me. I was one of the first people arrested. They beat me up, and then they put me on murder's roll. What they were trying to do is they arrested hundreds of people. They let them all go within 2 or 3 hours. They kept 5 cholos, gangsters, because they were going to put these people that got killed, they were going to charge us for the murders of those people because they blamed us for starting the riot. And so I was on murder's roll for about maybe a week. I was in the cell next to Charles Manson because he was going to trial at the time. But I met all the rest of them were black and brown. And then I met these Watts Rebellion fighters that were still in jail for other things, but they were talking to me about rebellion and revolution, and my mind was beginning to change. So I'm going to read you a poem I wrote in that jail, because they were playing cards and goofing around and some drawing, but I wanted to write for some reason, and I wrote the seeds of this poem. It's called The Calling. So you can get that somehow as being called to something bigger, and that was the seed of it. It goes like this. The calling came to me while I languished in my room, while I withered away my youth in jail cells and damp patio fields. It brought me to life out of captivity in a street-scarred and tattooed place I called body. Until then, I waited silently, a deafening clamor in my head, voiceless to all around, hidden from America's eyes, a brown boy without a name. I would sing into a solitary tape recorder, music never to be heard. I would write my thoughts in scrambled English. I would take photos in my mind, plan out new parks, bushy green, concrete-free, new places to play and think. Waiting. Then it came, the calling. It brought me out of my room. It forced me to escape night captors and street prisons. It called me to war, to be writer, to be scientist, and march with the soldiers of change. It called me from the shadows, out of the wreckage of my barrio, from among those who did not exist. I waited all of 16 years for this time. Somehow unexpected, I was called.
And we're so blessed that you were. Luis Rodriguez, TiaChucha.org.
Yeah.
TiaChucha.org. And, I just thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, I appreciate it anytime. I love doing this.
And thank you for all the work that you're doing, saving lives and such. Do not miss This Is Not a Drill tomorrow morning. They're talking about Black August. They have some of the former Panthers and people that can speak to the movement to free political prisoners, including Leonard Peltier, who we still need to free. And, of course, if you're in the Bay Area, stop by the Oakland Museum. I will be there along with Digital Underground, Boots Riley from the the list goes on and on. It's the Bay Area Hip Hop Archives. It's an induction. You're invited. You can find them on Instagram under Bay Area Hip Hop Archives and find out all about that. What's going on tonight? Time to pass the mic to Tavis Smiley. It is the best of Tavis Smiley. Happy birthday, Miles. Happy birthday, hip hop. Until next time, one love.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. In Illinois, an African-American Chicago man who recently had a 1996 murder conviction overturned by a Cook County judge after serving 27 years in prison is a free man. Lewis Robinson's lawyers for the Exoneration Project had submitted court records showing former CPD detective Ronaldo Guevara pressured the witness in the case to lie and blame Robinson for the murder, which led to his conviction. Robinson is the 42nd Guevara conviction to be overturned. We're now learning that the number of suicides in the United States is at an all-time high. According to a new report from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, roughly 49,000 Americans committed suicide in 2022. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com. At Blindster, we offer over 50 different custom window treatments, including faux wood blinds and shutters, all at prices less than retail. Plus, we'll send you free samples before you buy. Don't hire an expensive pro. Do it yourself and save big at Blindster.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
A special weekend coming up for former Lakers star Pau Gasol. Gasol will be inducted into the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame on Saturday in Springfield, Massachusetts. Gasol plays 7 of his 18 NBA seasons with the Lakers. The 6-time All-Star helped the Lakers win 2 NBA championships. Joining Gasol in the Hall of Fame class of 2023 is Dwayne Wade, Tony Parker, Dirk Nowitzki, and San Antonio Spurs coach Greg Popovich. The Lakers will play the Denver Nuggets on the opening night of the NBA regular season. Opening night for the NBA is October 24th. The ACC is having second thoughts about adding Cal and Stanford. The revenue potential of both schools and travel distance are major factors in the discussions. Cal and Stanford will need a new conference in 2024 with the Pac-12 disintegrating. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Time now for the best of Tavis Smiley on KBLA Talk 1580.
1, 2, 3, I'm gonna try to keep it coming. Things ain't always smooth, but I'll be alright as long as I can find the groove. Yes, I will. Somehow I know that I can make it. You singing like my style. Don't you worry, I'm gonna be around a while. I'm just happy to see you. To me, back in style again.
Live from Leimert Park, USA, I'm Tavis Smiley, and you're listening to the best of Tavis Smiley on KBLA Talk 1580. Let me invite you to follow us on all of our socials at KBLA 1580. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, all at KBLA 1580. You can also download our app at KBLA 1580. Take us with you anywhere in the world and listen to us in real time by downloading our app at KBLA 1580. Should you miss us any day in real time, check out the podcast of this program by going to the app, the website, Anchor, or Spotify, and now Apple Podcasts as well. Check out our podcast at your leisure should you miss us any day in real time. Let me also invite you to follow me on Facebook and Instagram at The Real Tavis Smiley and get Twitter updates at Tavis Smiley. A good Best of Tavis Smiley show on tap for you today. In our second hour today, is there a right way to talk about black culture? Everybody wants to exploit black culture, but how do we rethink the complexities of the intersections of politics, speech, and art, and reimagine a more nuanced and new way of seeing and appreciating black culture? We'll try to make sense of all of that in hour two with acclaimed University of Texas professor and author, Dr. Roger Reeves. In our third hour, a conversation about reinventing yourself regardless of your age and living life authentically. Bevy Smith, the host of Bevelations, I love that, Bevelations on SiriusXM, joins us in hour three to share her journey from fashion world success to hitting emotional rock bottom to learning how to live big. Bevy says you can too at any age, and she joins us today in hour three to tell us how. But in this first hour, two conversations on the B side of this hour. Visionary creative director Kenny Gravelis has been dubbed the man behind the posters. He joins us for a conversation about how he became the go-to for major Hollywood studios and top filmmakers seeking thought-provoking advertising campaigns and film posters. Kenny Gravelis on the backside of this hour. We start today, though, in conversation with the mayor of Montgomery, Alabama, Stephen Reed, who joins us now to discuss that riverboat brawl and the video that went viral all over social media. Assault charges brought earlier this week against 3 white males involved in the melee, but right now we'll get an update from Mayor Reed on Tavis Smiley. Mayor Reed, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well, Tavis. How about yourself?
Man, if I complained, I'd be an ingrate. I'm delighted to have you back on this program, delighted that we got 30 minutes to try to make some sense of what happened. Let me just start with this. I'll start big and we'll narrow our way through and get an update on these assault charges yesterday, assault allegations. So let me just start with this, though. As the mayor of the city, when you saw this, what did you think?
Oh, I was, surprised, disturbed by it, very much, maybe even shocked by, what I saw. I had just been down there, the back to school event that was taking place on our riverfront. Our public schools go back to school, start back tomorrow. And we had a great event, so we had just left from down there, seeing a lot of families and, kids and whatnot out there with concerts and all that sort of thing. So it was a totally different, picture when I left, and then maybe about an hour and a half later, we heard it come across our radio that something that happened on the riverfront. Not understanding certainly to that degree, even after getting some of the descriptions from people, didn't quite really really become clear until probably the next day when I saw the video. And to be honest, as mayor, my first thought was, okay, we had a melee, we had a fight, it was, that sort of thing. Okay, is everybody okay? Yes. All right. Are there any, weapons used, anything like that? Any shots fired, anything like that? No. Okay. All right. Well, you guys kind of, keep me apprised of the situation, and then, we'll go from there.
Yeah.
And I think when I got the update, it still didn't really click until, again, I saw the first video that someone sent me, I think, on my staff, and that was the surprise and disappointment, to seeing what took place and just how it all played out.
Yeah. When you say surprise and disappointment, surprise, I get. Unpack the definition of that word disappointment as you just used it.
Well, I think disappointment that a man is doing his job and trying to protect not only those who are on the riverboat, but also those that are using the docks from getting hurt. That's why he is there. They have been trying to move that pontoon boat for over 40 minutes, I think around 45 minutes. And, that's a long time. Tavis, you travel a lot, so do I. Sometimes you stuck on that tarmac,
oh, yeah.
For 10, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
That feels like a long time. But certainly when you get to 30 minutes, people start to get cranky on the airplane. And so you can imagine being on a riverboat in Montgomery, Alabama heat, which is no joke around that time, for that amount of time that, they were trying to get their attention. So to see someone respond to a person who's probably the second or third level of now trying to get your attention to move your boat, to do something you're not supposed to do, be attacked like that for just carrying out a job function was just something that was disappointing that we have come to some of that. And I said this earlier, you know, I've been on airplanes where I've seen people respond to the flight attendants in a certain way that I don't think, you know, 10 years ago or so I saw.
Yep.
But now it just seems to be something that there's not quite that level of respect for people doing their jobs, much less people in authority.
Yeah.
Or how, you know, people respond to them if they don't get their way, if they don't like what's said.
Yep. That's what the mayor thought when he saw the videotape. We're talking to Mayor Stephen Reed, Mayor of Montgomery, Alabama. You heard again his take on what he saw when he witnessed that videotape. When we come forward, I'm going to tell you what I saw. I'm going to give you a hint of what I thought rather when I saw it. Here's my hint: Rosa Parks. We'll talk more about it when we come forward. Mayor Stephen Reed on Tavis Smile.
Seeking the truth, speaking the truth. This is the Tavis Smiley Show.
I'm Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I learned about atrial fibrillation the hard way. My symptoms would come and go: shortness of breath, fatigue. I kept going. Then I got so lightheaded, I couldn't. My doctor said I have AFib, so I'm about 5 times more likely to have a stroke. Other symptoms: irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain can come and go, but the risk of stroke stays. If you have symptoms, tell a doctor. Visit NoTimeToWait.com. Sponsored by Bristol-Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
Parents, we know we can't protect our kids from everything. Eventually, they're going to bump their heads or scrape their knees. But we can protect them from 6 types of cancer. HPV, or human papillomavirus, is a common preventable virus that can cause cancer later in life. The HPV vaccine prevents human papillomavirus and all the cancers it can cause. The American Cancer Society recommends getting your sons and daughters the HPV vaccine starting at age 9 to protect them later in life.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Maisha Cairo here for KBLA Talk 1580. We're live in Los Angeles at J.P. Morgan Chase's Advancing Black Wealth Tour, and I'm speaking to some of the attendees today to see why it was so important for them to be here.
Yeah, this is Lakey and Tyler. Main reason that's very important for me to be here is just to leave a legacy for Chase. Someone has to take the lead. They're showing big business like Chase cares, and they're putting their money where their mouth is at. So it's good to see big institution like Chase giving a lifting hand to the community, and you got to respect that. It makes me want to bank with Chase and give them another look if I go to another institution. I actually see what Chase is doing for the community.
That's right, Chase is doing their part to help advance Black wealth. For more money support, tune in every day from 12 to 2 to KBLA Talk 1580's Midday Money Chain right here.
Hey, Dad, how do airplanes fly? What's in this box? Is this tree good for climbing? How are babies made? What does this thing do?
Kids are curious about everything, including guns. Talking to them about gun safety in your home is a good first step, but you can do more. Always keep your guns locked, unloaded, and stored separately from ammunition. Safe gun storage saves lives. Learn how to make your home safer at endfamilyfire.org. That's endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by End Family Fire, Brady and the Ad Council.
The California Crusader newspaper would like to thank all of our subscribers for their support throughout the years, proudly serving the South Los Angeles and South Bay areas for more than 40 years. The California Crusader is a multicultural, black-owned, adjudicated newspaper that focuses on providing newsworthy information to the people in our community. We're constantly looking for ways to assist businesses in our community to connect with our subscribers. We provide low-cost, effective ways to promote your business with our reasonable and affordable advertising rates. You can participate by suggesting, sharing, and submitting your stories on the California Crusader newspaper Community Share Facebook group page, or visit our website at cal-cruise-news.com. That's calcruisenews.com. Then click on the Submit Now button located on the top right corner of the homepage, or text CCN to 42828. Again, text CCN to 42828. The California Crusader newspaper, working together to build a better community for our future. Subscribe today.
More honesty than you can handle. More empowerment than you can imagine. You're tuned in to Tavis Smiley.
We're celebrating what would have been Whitney's 60th birthday today, playing some of the best of Whitney Houston all 3 hours of our program today. And we are delighted in this moment to be joined in conversation by the mayor of Montgomery, Alabama, Mayor Stephen Reed. We all saw the viral video seen now around the world. And all of the memes and all the jokes. We were talking yesterday about the brother that jumped in the water and all the nicknames, Swimmy Hendrix, Michael B. Phelps, Scuba, Gooding Jr., all the jokes and all the memes notwithstanding. The mayor said when he saw that videotape, he was surprised and disappointed. When I saw it, well, let me tell you, I'm getting all kind of messages, Mayor. Let me just read one. Tavis, as soon as the brother tossed up his cap, what I saw and felt as the inevitable pile-on occurred was every lynching of every black person evoking cellular memory. So we laugh and joke about the memes, but it wasn't a joking matter what actually happened on that, Doc. The mayor, again, surprised, disappointed. Mayor Reed, I thought almost immediately of my late friend Rosa Parks. I had the honor of knowing Mrs. Parks, as I told you before. The honor, as you know, I spoke at her funeral. I was one of her eulogists in Montgomery at her home church. And so I know this city well. I love your city, so much history in that city. And I thought about the way the world would see Montgomery anew, given the history, the civil rights history that we know exists and was birthed in that city. So let me just ask you a broad question. How do you think people today are seeing the city of Montgomery, the state of Alabama? Are we being reminded of how racist this part of the country is? You tell me how you think the rest of us are seeing your neck of the woods.
I think given some of the feedback I've gotten, people are seeing it through the prism of history and the prism of the pain that time when Mrs. Parks and her husband Raymond were threatened and essentially run out of Montgomery to Detroit. Seeing it through that prospect, as opposed to what I might say has been some of the progress that's been made. Certainly since that time. And, it's important to understand the individuals who were, who we filed warrants on, one has turned himself in, and we're going to have to, I guess, go get the other ones. They haven't turned themselves in at this point.